I must away along, for I can no longer tarry. Morning's tempest I will have to cross. I must be guided without a stumble into the arms I love the most. And when he came to his true love's dwelling, he knelt down gently upon a stone, and through the window he whispered lowly, "Is my true love within at home? Wake up, love, it is thy known true lover. Wake up, love, and let me in." And they were locked in each other's arms until that long night was past and o'er. I must away, love, for I can no longer tarry. This morning's tempest I will have to cross. I must be guided without a stumble into the arms I love the most.
Bravo, bravissimo, Benny McKay and Eddie McIntyre. Thank you very, very much indeed. And we're here today to remember an old friend of yours who's gone from us at this time.
Indeed.
Eddie Ruddy.
The great Eddie Ruddy, and that was a song we sang at the Mass, and indeed it was one that Eddie particularly liked, and it's an old Robbie Burns song, "I must away now, for I can no longer tarry," and it was...
that was Eddie.
Yeah, it was Eddie. You know.
He tarried a long time.
He tarried along, 89 years of age.
That's a
Ronnie
good
was.
age to get.
Great,
a good age, yeah.
Wonderful,
absolutely.
Vibrant personality.
Absolutely, yeah. Big loss.
Yes, a big loss to the district. He did a lot of work, both not only in traditional music, but in classical music. He played in the Newry Musical Society, he played in the orchestra in it, and he was well known, a bit like he did a lot of things. He worked, I think, as a telegram boy, then into the telephones, and then he worked in the tax department, and then he became a full-time official for Cultus.
Oh yeah, but he was a great anomaly. The fact that a taxman could have a heart.
Yeah,
he proved the point that it is possible. The taxman can be an artist.
He's a bit like the...
What?
A different hat for
a different hat.
The Iceman cometh when you see the taxman.
He does indeed. But there is evidence, if you look at the chronicles of the years, of you all been boys together, musical boys together.
One of my great visions of Eddie is during the civil rights period, Sean Hollywood had organised some protest out the Belfast Road to the UDR Centre, and the march, Sean was a man who was indeed, he wanted peace and everything, non-violence, and the march was peaceful going out. He got a bit worried when he got to the UDR Centre because everybody sat down on the road. He got them to sit down a bit like the loaves and fishes on the road outside. But you could see there was a few fellas on the wings were getting a bit weary, and he was getting worried in case somebody might throw a stone or that. And he looked down, Ruddy was sitting there, and he says to Eddie, "Have you got the tin whistle?" And Eddie says, "I never go anywhere without it." So he says, "Eddie, I need you. Play." So he played for about 20 minutes, and he soothed you could see the whole atmosphere changing. And
Of course, his great one was the Lonesome Boatman.
well, he did that,
Correct.
and when he did
Shamrocks
that, they stood
at
up and
night.
they applauded him. So
Oh,
that
yeah.
took the heat out of the situation. But he was a wonderful
yes,
individual.
Whenever he was the working for the cultists, going around drumming up support for. In the early days, there wouldn't have been as big a thing, but there was competitions on, and they started off, at local county, and then you worked your way up to the All Ireland.
Yes.
But they were short of competitors, so he says we'll enter, and he says we'll. He played the concert flute, which means that he could play in some awkward keys for traditional musicians. So he decided that he would play the Drunken Sailor, and he would teach me it to go onto the stage and play it with him,
My goodness,
because it was in B flat.
Yes.
So we must have rehearsed for the best part of 20 minutes, maybe half an hour before the competition, and we went on. And when we were coming off the stage, the tune was called The Drunken Sailor, and he says, he was brave and drunk today, Eddie, wasn't he?
So you were fluttering between the notes and
That's
up
correct.
the scale and down the
Yeah.
scale. It wasn't always. Is it? You have a poem of tribute to it.
I have, but just before, there's a wee thing just floated through my mind. I remember being out in France, and we had this. Well, it was an easy night. We had no booking, so we went up to this pub in, I think it was Nevers, and we went into the pub, and it was a rugby pub, and we seen all the big rugby teams up on the wall, the Irish rugby teams there, and the Welsh and Scots and that. And we were the man hadn't an awful lot of English, but he had a little, and both Tommy Hollywood and Billy Fagan had a fair wee bit of French, but he asked us where we were from, and we said Irlande du Nord, Irlande, he says, Irlande. Ave, Ave, Ave Maria. This was during the height of the trouble.
Religion and bullets.
And he sort of summed up. This was now at the very one of the worst times of the thing, and he just summed it up by that there. Ave, Ave, Ave Maria.
What a way to say it. Goodness gracious.
Yeah, I have a poem that I sat down, and one of the things I always remember Eddie for, he was a great man to go to a fla with. I knew that many people, and he could get you in through doors that maybe it weren't that easy opened. But there was a fla that was always held down in the very south of the country in Listowel. And they had, I can remember being at least 4 or 5 flas in the Listowel. Listowel was a wonderful place. You had people like John B. Keane, Brian McMahon, a great literary place and sporting place that had its own race course and everything.
Oh, yes.
But it was the Gurriers didn't come down that far.
Yeah.
So you had a really great, exceptional time. And some of the things that happened to me in it, I used to think maybe, did I really dream that these things happened?
My goodness.
They were really, if you were lucky, and you get into an exceptionally good session, and it maybe rambled on, and time meant you just suddenly find that it was maybe 4 in the morning. You see the dawn coming up, and you still were playing away,
still playing.
and things were going great, and
Absolutely.
the people that were wafting in and out, it was just like a litany of the saints. It was
Absolutely.
great. And Ruddy had this in this one we mention the Cambridge Hotel. There is no Cambridge Hotel in Listowel, but Eddie had an Austin Cambridge car.
Yes.
So he slept. I always remember him sleeping. Him and Billy Fagan and Peter Foy slept in the Cambridge Hotel.
And of course, you play a wonderful instrument made by the great Newry Boweron maker. Patsy Quinn.
Yeah.
And that's it there. That's your Boweron.
But talking about Eddie always had a wonderful a hatred of, not say hatred, he always slagged off Boweron players and Ilian pipe players.
She was all fun.
Because he said they were a waste of space. He told me, he says, McKay, you should be playing that thing with the Stanley knife instead of a stick.
To which you said, no, I used the Stanley knife to dispatch the goat.
But he had he had a unique sense. He had a sort of McDonough, the fellow that wrote The Beauty Queen of Lenan and The Cripple of Inisheer, and he's this great play on the lyric. He had that sort of black humour, and he loved to give you that A wee story, if I could sort of give it to you, in the Newry Musical Society, he was doing the opera, it was South Pacific.
Yeah.
And we came to the interval, and he was sitting in the orchestra pit, and Kathleen Bell, the producer, was there, and Alma Brown. And Kathleen says to Alma, she says, "Oh, Siobhan is a Trinity, and she's reading the classics." And Alma says back to her, she says, "Well, our Pat's at Queen's University, and she's doing Greek mythology." So the both of them looked down and said, "Eddie, what is your brood of young boys doing?" And Eddie says, "Well, our Eamon's at Newry Tech, and he's reading pornography." That was the
That
thing.
was Eddie.
He also
That was
said
Eddie.
he's got a PhD. What in? Post-hole digging.
It's post-hole digging.
But Eddie was he was very smart. I mean, he was because of his time where there wasn't the free education. I know Eddie could have went on to other
absolutely.
things. He had a brilliant intellect, and he was great.
But in these times when we consider the men who have gone, great musicians, great poets, right from the Heaney's down,
Yeah.
you know, I often think I muse spiritually about where does the musician go when the musician dies?
Yes. Well, I think Peter has a wee spot for him, in along with the harpists, with the angels and that.
Yes,
They'll
would he be
I
there?
can just see Roddy being diverted in, and he'd be meeting Paddy Clerkin and Tommy
Yeah.
Hollywood.
Would they be wearing
Fintan Callan?
white robes, and would they have wings at this stage?
Well, I'd like to think they would have wings. It'd be nice to fly about and zoom
Oh,
in.
you can see him with the flute flying
around.
Oh my God.
Doing the flight of the bumblebee.
Flight of the bumblebee.
But this poem,
Yes.
it gets underneath the skin of the Fleadh Listowel, and it tells of the many great people we meet and the various things that would happen.
Okay.
That was surrealistic.
Can't wait. Please do it. That would be wonderful.
It's called the Listowel Fleadh. I left Old Newry in the month of August, my flute and whistle packed away, heading southwards for sweet Listowel. The All-Ireland Fleadh is on today. Pyjamas, toothbrush, and pints of porter, jammy dodgers and the Cambridge car. Rosary beads and quarts of whiskey will help me make it through the Fleadh. We headed straight for the Listowel Arms. I laid down a marker at the bar, met Tony Smith, and I pulled the flute and joined the fiddle of the Cavan Star. McGuire came in, but wouldn't join us. The Belfast fiddler had other fish to fry. The mason's apron, the stacks of barley. God, we let her rip, and we let her fly. The crowd did roar as we made our exit up the street to Keno's bar. There was Fagin in the corner, and the fairy foy like a movie star. McKay was flagellating on the boron. McIntyre was groping with his box. Dowling the piper chanted Rickish Paddy, whilst JB watched like a cunning fox. Seamus Machtnahuna entered the building, singing of Clare's great hurling deeds. The candelabra swayed with the high notes. The local drunk coughed and peed. I pulled the flute and called for action. They all joined in with a mighty roar. The music ebbed and flowed like a belly dancer's belly as a casual set hit to the floor. We all thought we died and went to heaven, for this was music of a high degree. A Celtic spell had been smite upon us, as the music and drink flowed fast and free. John B. treated us with wondrous stories. We all replied with reels and jigs. The bull McCabe burst through the door. He reeked of cowshite, the drunken pig. We played slides and polkas and some mazurkas. Peace be with you, as I played slow airs. The glasses bounced, the dancers trounced, the Sacred Heart gave me a stare. I raced for the toilet, the usual problem. The waterworks groaned as I made the door. Like the inn at Bethlehem, there was no room. I weed and piddled on the floor. It was for one, all for one, and one for all, as musicians rave with all their might. Fiddles, banjos, jews, harps, and barons helped me make it through the night. The guards came in to hear their favourites, and soon were caught in that magic spell. Young Bryony Ryan, straight out of Templemore, told the station sergeant to go to hell. Sweet Nora Butler, give us a rendition of ballad music at its best. Young Bryony removed his shirt and tunic, exposed to all his hairy chest. JB castigated and called for order, and those who failed would be removed. The station sergeant smiled and whispered, Bryony, you have no stripes to lose. I played the blackbird and the drunken sailor. Tony answered with the fairy reel. McIntyre led us all in a musical frenzy as the sun arose on the misty field. The door was opened and the guard peeped out. A rat had scurried across the road. One by one we left the bar and steered the ship for our mean abode. Early morning shadows crisscrossed the square as a scavenging fox jumped from a bin. McIntyre and myself, we played the fox hunt as O'Sullivan's granny kicked up a tin. We watched an otter chase a salmon. We marvelled at all of nature's plan. Fagin pulled out his new tin whistle. We all joined in the rights of man. We safely reached the town park's camping, where 2,000 souls were all at rest. McKay and McIntyre, they were in the nest. Freddie Fagin and me, we cracked a naggin. We still were under the Celtic spell. The lads in the back, and me in the front, as we bedded down in the Cambridge Hotel. My fairy godmother waved her magic wand as we all fell into a sleep of dreams. With the smell of whiskey and aerodynamic farts, life is always not what it seems.
That's amazing.
That's a sort of a reminder of what it's like to go to.
You guys enjoyed yourselves at these flies.
All of the time. It was great.
Yeah.
Hey, I always remember Eddie McIntyre went to get a burger one time at the Fly, and he came to the stall and we asked, Bill was doing the burgers.
Yes.
And Eddie asked for the burger and he says, no sauce. He says, we don't sell burgers without sauce.
You're joking.
You may guess how good they were.
Oh, yes.
You had to take the sauce.
Yeah, indeed.
He didn't sell burgers without it.
So personally, do you feel a loss that this man is gone?
Yes, but we feel happy for him in one sense that he had a great life. And, he did the things that he wanted to do, and he was very content within himself. And I suppose the last maybe year he got it tough, but he had a great lifestyle up unto that, And I was out in Carricroppin on Friday night doing a wee thing for the Carricroppin Club with Donal Hanlon and Sean Traynor.
Yes.
And I met Jimmy Burns.
Yes.
And Jimmy was one of Eddie's. Jimmy's 90 this year in
My
July.
goodness.
Wonderful fiddle player. And all the family was there.
90.
90 this year in July.
He had a brother who sang, who's gone from
Jerry.
us. Jerry.
He sang with the international
He-
Killy Band. Jackie
you
Hurst.
did,
Yeah.
Jackie. My goodness. Where does time go?
This is it. But they were wonderful. I mean, Jimmy, he asked, I did the poem out there because all the lads that, there was a session going on as well too. Emmett Quinn and Gus Bradley and Kieran Burns and Paddy Burns and another Burns played the piano, another son, which I didn't know.
That's
And
Jim's son.
Jimmy was playing the fiddle, and they were really, some lovely music was played. And I said, listen, I wasn't actually going to do that because I was actually going to do a poem that I'd written about Patsy Quinn's young lad that died in England. And I said, no,
come.
Right. And we did that there instead. And Jimmy said, would you do me a favour? Would you give me a copy? And I just handed them the copy.
Lovely. Well, listen, we're in the last 4 minutes of the programme.
Right.
We'll bid people farewell. Maybe you'll play us out.
Yeah.
Give something to do.
Well, I'm going to play a tune that Mr. Ruddy, on occasions he called me Mr. McIntyre. So Mr. Ruddy, for two reasons, did not like. One of them was because he didn't like playing in the key of A.
Oh.
Right? And this tune is written in the key of A.
Yes.
And the reason I picked it partly was because it was an A and because he didn't like it. But I thought it appropriate because the name of the tune is Peter Street, And I hope he met Peter in the street.
In the street. So listen, we bid you farewell as we have this final tribute this morning, because the tributes will go on forever, to the great Newry musician Eddie Ruddy. I will see you in the morning at 7:30. God willing, inshallah. Gentlemen, take it away. God bless you. Thanks for coming in. Take care.